Welcome back to the Exposure History channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more videos like this one. Jewish youth aboard a refugee ship, July 15, 1945. They lift sleeves showing Auschwitz tattoos etched into skin. The numbers mark survival from Nazi brutality and loss. Their young faces reveal both relief and deep scars. Freedom awaits, yet memories of camps remain unshaken. This image captures resilience in the aftermath of horror. Jack Rosenthal stands outside Auschwitz, the Wers, January 26, 2015. Born in Romania, he was only 14 when imprisoned. He raises his arm, revealing the faded Auschwitz tattoo. The number testifies to survival through terror and loss. Decades later, he returns as a witness to memory. A silent vow, never to forget, never again. Miroslav Chelka, 93, returned to Auschwitz on January 27, 2017. He was born in Sosnowiec, Poland, and survived the Holocaust's horrors. Walking the grounds, he remembers hunger, fear, and the endless despair. The empty barracks whisper of lives stolen and futures erased. His journey back is both painful and deeply necessary. By visiting, he honors victims and carries remembrance into the future. John Hajdu sits quietly, holding his small childhood teddy bear. The toy traveled with him when he fled Hungary as a refugee. It crossed borders, carried in fear, hope, and a child's small hands. Now, decades later, the bear remains a witness to survival's story. Worn fabric and seams preserve memories of flight and resilience. John's gaze reveals gratitude, sorrow, and the weight of remembrance. A simple toy becomes a symbol of endurance and human strength. A family portrait unlike most, pieced together after loss and survival. Ziggy Schipper's loved ones could not all gather for one photograph. Instead, separate images were joined, forming a single, imagined family frame. Each face carries its own story of hardship, hope, and memory. The portrait bridges absence, restoring unity against history's brutal separations. Arthur Edwards' work turns fragments into wholeness, a tribute to resilience. It stands as both remembrance and healing, giving Ziggy's family permanence. Saul Erner sits surrounded by the love of his granddaughters. At just 5 years old, he fled Belgium with his family. His mother and sisters escaped, carrying hope across borders of fear. His father, however, was killed by the Gestapo, a loss eternal. Now, decades later, Saul's survival lives on through generations beside him. The portrait by Cian Bonnell captures both memory and continuity. It speaks of tragedy endured, but also of life reclaimed. June 6, 1944. Chaos churns in the surf off Normandy. A landing craft sinks. Men fight against waves and steel. Others wade back, pulling survivors toward fragile safety. Exhaustion mixes with relief as boots touch sand. These rescues remind us, amid war's fury, human bonds endure. Each saved life carries the promise of another tomorrow. June 6, 1944. U.S. troops wade ashore at Normandy, waves breaking around them. Each step forward carries the weight of history. This invasion isn't only about defeating an army, it's about tearing open the gates of occupied Europe. Every soldier here unknowingly marches toward the hidden camps, toward the faces of survival waiting in silence. D-Day is the beginning of liberation, the first step on the road to ending the Holocaust. June 5, 1944, hours before D-Day. General Dwight D. Eisenhower leans in, speaking to paratroopers of the 101st Airborne. The men listen, nervous yet steady, knowing they're about to jump into German-occupied France. This invasion would open the road to liberating Europe and the concentration camps hidden in its heart. The faces here tell the story. Courage before chaos, determination before sacrifice. Moments like this remind us that survival, freedom, and humanity often rest on the edge of history. June 4, 1944. Captain Lasden stands before his men of the British Army. The invasion of Normandy is only 2 days away. Tension fills the air. They know the risks, yet they stand ready. This briefing is more than strategy. It's a moment of resolve. Each face here carries the weight of history, about to fight for a Europe torn apart. For many, this was the path to liberating the camps and ending the nightmare. June 6, 1944. British troops land on Normandy's beaches during D-Day. They move forward through surf, burdened with weapons and resolve. The invasion marks the beginning of liberation for occupied Europe. Sand, sea, and smoke frame the perilous crossing under fire. Each soldier embodies courage, advancing despite chaos and deadly resistance. History shifted as the Allies opened a decisive second front. This photograph preserves their determination and sacrifice for generations. June 6, 1944. Assault troops crowd into a landing craft approaching Omaha Beach. The sea churns, the air thick with fear and determination. Every face here knows what waits: machine guns, chaos, death. Yet still, they press forward. This landing is not just an invasion, it is a turning point. Behind them lies a world of terror. Ahead, the first steps toward freeing Europe's survivors. June 6, 1944. U.S. troops push through the surf, boots heavy with seawater. Each man faces fire, fear, and an uncertain tomorrow. But their struggle reaches beyond this beach. These waves carry them toward occupied towns, toward rail lines leading to camps hidden in shadows. Every step through the surf brings liberation closer. For survivors waiting behind barbed wire, this day marks the sound of hope approaching. June 6, 1944. Canadian troops of B Company advance at Normandy. They take cover against enemy fire sweeping the beach. Rifles ready, determination visible, they press forward under danger. The North Shore Regiment faces chaos with steady discipline. Smoke and sand surround them in this critical assault. Their courage added strength to the Allied invasion's momentum. This image honors their bravery on history's decisive day. Landing craft line the shore, heavy with men and supplies. Barrage balloons float overhead, guarding against low-flying enemy aircraft. The sand is littered with tracks, equipment, and scattered debris. Transports remain offshore, steady lifelines for the advancing troops. Soldiers move supplies quickly, every crate vital for survival inland. The beach, scarred and chaotic, shows the scale of invasion. Smoke drifts faintly, reminders of battle still raging nearby. Here, the second front against Nazi Germany truly took shape. Amphibious craft pushed toward Cape Gloucester under looming tropical skies. Marines brace themselves, weapons ready, nerves sharpened by incoming fire. Palm trees shatter as shells pound the shoreline with fury. Waves churn, carrying men into a crucible of mud. The jungle waits ahead, dense, hostile, concealing enemy defenses. On Christmas Eve, battle replaces peace for thousands of Marines. Cape Gloucester becomes a gateway in the campaign across the Pacific. Women across Florida trade aprons for tools of industry. Secretaries, housewives, waitresses, all join the wartime effort with resolve. In vocational schools, they master welding, riveting, and machinery. The classroom hums with determination, echoing America's shifting workforce. Every lesson taken fuels the factories supplying soldiers abroad. These women embody resilience, reshaping roles once thought impossible. Their contribution is vital, stitching strength into the nation's fabric. Here, the home front proves as decisive as the front lines. Rosal Schatzberger, age 96, sits gently with her daughter, Leslie. In her hands, she cradles a portrait of Ida Schatzberger. Ida, her mother-in-law, was murdered at Auschwitz during the Holocaust. The photograph becomes both a family treasure and a painful reminder. Generations meet here, survivor, descendant, and memory bound in one frame. Rosal's presence honors resilience. The portrait honors those who never returned. Together they carry grief and strength, preserving memory against forgetting. Bing Crosby, beloved star of stage, screen, and radio, takes the microphone. His warm voice drifts through the canteen, lifting tired soldiers' spirits. The crowd of Allied troops gathers, smiles breaking through fatigue. In Piccadilly, London, laughter and music momentarily replace war's weight. This performance marks the opening of the London Stage Door Canteen. Crosby's presence offers comfort, hope, and a reminder of home. Marines move cautiously across the rugged terrain of Peleliu Island. The ground is harsh, scarred by shells and scattered with coral rock. Heat presses down, and the air feels heavy with tension. Weapons ready, the men advance, eyes scanning for hidden dangers. Every step carries the weight of survival and sacrifice. This photograph captures endurance during one of the Pacific's fiercest battles. Hungarian Jews step from crowded trains onto Auschwitz soil, June 1944. Confusion and fear mark their faces as guards shout orders. Mothers clutch children, carrying bundles of hurriedly packed belongings. Smoke drifts faintly from chimneys beyond the barbed wire fences. The platform becomes a place of separation and despair. Families are divided, uncertain of what lies ahead. This haunting image reflects systematic cruelty and unimaginable loss. A single moment captures the beginning of countless tragic fates. A group of SS officers stand together at Auschwitz in 1944. From left, Karl Höcker, Dr. Josef Mengele, and Richard Baer. Baer served as Auschwitz commandant between May and December 1944. Mengele, the camp doctor, became infamous for cruel medical experiments. They appear calm, detached from the suffering around them. This image highlights perpetrators, not victims, within Auschwitz's tragic history. It reveals faces behind organized brutality during the Holocaust. Their presence symbolizes power built on unimaginable human suffering. This photo shows women deemed fit for work in May 1944. They stand in lines, recently separated from families at Auschwitz-Birkenau. Those chosen faced forced labor under brutal, inhumane conditions. The others, deemed unfit, were sent directly to gas chambers. Expressions reveal fear, uncertainty, and exhaustion after the long journey. The moment captures a cruel system of selection and survival. Every face represents a story cut short or painfully endured. This image testifies to suffering imposed by Nazi persecution. This photo shows women in Auschwitz barracks, January 1945. They are weak, cold, and waiting as liberation approaches. The barracks are overcrowded, wooden, and unsanitary, reflecting horrific conditions. Faces reveal exhaustion, suffering, and the toll of relentless deprivation. Clothing hangs loosely, evidence of starvation and severe malnutrition. Despite despair, some women cling to fragile hope for survival. This haunting image documents humanity under unimaginable cruelty and oppression. It stands as evidence of resilience amid systematic persecution. This photograph shows Auschwitz prisoners before Soviet liberation in January 1945. They stand behind barbed wire, clothed in striped uniforms, weak and malnourished. Snow lies on the ground, amplifying their suffering and bitter cold. Their faces reflect exhaustion, fear, and the trauma of captivity. Every figure carries the weight of years of persecution and loss. Yet liberation was approaching, bringing an end to their torment. This haunting image preserves a final glimpse before freedom returned. This photograph shows a pile of discarded eyeglasses from murdered prisoners. Each frame belonged to someone stripped of dignity, identity, and life. The collection reflects the scale of loss inflicted during the Holocaust. Ordinary objects become evidence of extraordinary cruelty and calculated extermination. Thousands of lives are represented in this silent, haunting display. The glasses speak for victims whose voices were permanently silenced. This image remains a chilling reminder of humanity's darkest chapter. This photograph shows 15-year-old Ivan Dudnik, rescued in 1945. His thin frame reveals the suffering endured under Nazi captivity. The boy's eyes carry exhaustion, fear, and a fragile hope. Rescuers surround him, offering protection after years of brutality. Ivan symbolizes countless children caught in war's merciless grasp. His survival reflects resilience amid cruelty and despair. This image reminds us that even youth were not spared. Every rescue carried both relief and haunting memories. On January 27, 2018, Holocaust survivors returned to Auschwitz together. The elderly couple walked slowly, supporting each other across the grounds. Their presence testified to survival against unimaginable cruelty and relentless persecution. Every step carried memories of pain, loss, and enduring strength. The camp's silence weighed heavy, echoing voices of countless murdered victims. By returning, they preserved memory and honored lives that could not. On March 18, 2018, Moshe Alien stood in Thessaloniki. He returned to the old railway station for commemoration ceremonies. This station marked the beginning of deportations toward Auschwitz's horrors. As a Holocaust survivor, his presence embodied memory and resilience. He honored victims who departed on trains, never to return home. The gathering reminded Greece of its lost Jewish community's suffering. Alien's testimony ensured remembrance, bridging past atrocities with present responsibility. On January 27, 2016, Auschwitz survivors gathered in Auschwitz, Poland. They were joined by families carrying memories across generations. At the victims' monument, silence framed their solemn candle lighting. Each flame honored lives extinguished in Auschwitz's brutal history. Survivors' presence testified to endurance against unimaginable suffering and loss. Families stood beside them, symbolizing continuity and remembrance. The candle's glow transformed grief into an enduring light of memory. In May 1946, Bergen-Belsen housed many displaced survivors. Among them was an 11-year-old, scarred by Auschwitz experiments. United Nations personnel administered vaccines to protect him from disease. The act symbolized hope after years of medical cruelty. Vaccination here meant healing, not exploitation or terror. This child's survival represented resilience despite systematic Nazi atrocities. The image preserves both the wounds and sparks of recovery. In May 1945, Mauthausen concentration camp stood newly liberated. A 13-year-old orphan survivor faced a world forever changed. His frail figure reflected starvation, trauma, and unimaginable loss. The camera captured innocence shattered by cruelty and neglect. Alone yet alive, he represented thousands of orphaned survivors. Every line on his face spoke of suffering endured. This photograph reminds us of resilience amid humanity's darkest chapter. In 1915, Willem Arondeus sat for this quiet portrait. Years later, he became a gay hero of Dutch resistance. During World War II, he struck at Amsterdam's population registry. His group set fire to files documenting Jews and dissidents. The act sought to protect lives from Nazi persecution and deportation. Betrayal followed, leading to arrest and execution in 1943. This image remembers a man who chose courage over silence. This street scene captures Paris's Jewish quarter before war and horror. Shops lined the cobbled streets. Voices once filled the bustling market air. Children played between stalls while families carried bread and produce home. Faith, tradition, and daily life blended seamlessly in this vibrant neighborhood. Yet, within years, Nazi occupation would shatter this fragile peace. Many residents were deported, their lives erased by the Holocaust. This photograph preserves the memory of a community before darkness. Abraham fled Berlin with his family, seeking refuge in Amsterdam. In 1943, his family was deported to Westerbork without him. He narrowly escaped capture, climbing rooftops to survive the roundup. Alone, he joined the Dutch resistance alongside Joop Westerwiel's group. He worked in secrecy, hiding his Jewish identity for safety. In 1944, the Nazis arrested him as a resistance member. His story reflects both survival and courage under brutal persecution. This is Anna Glinberg, captured in a quiet studio portrait. Her young face radiates innocence, unaware of the horrors ahead. In 1941, Nazis carried out mass executions at Babi Yar. Anna was among the countless Jewish children killed without mercy. Her photograph preserves a moment of life, stolen too soon. Each image, like hers, is a voice against forgetting. Her memory endures, reminding us of innocence lost in atrocity. This is Mania Halef, photographed in 1936 at only 2 years old. Her portrait captures tenderness and childhood innocence frozen in time. In 1941, Nazis turned Babi Yar into a killing field. Mania, like thousands of Jewish children, was murdered without mercy. Her small life ended before it truly began. This portrait remains her only surviving testimony, a fragile memory preserved. Through her face, we remember innocence, silenced by unimaginable violence. This is a 1937 portrait of siblings Suri and Ari Deutsch. The photograph was taken in Sighet, Romania, before the Holocaust. Their cousin, Rosalia Drattler-Reuter, carefully preserved this family memory. Tragically, Rosalia was later deported and murdered at Auschwitz. Suri and Ari also perished, their childhood stolen by Nazi brutality. The portrait reflects warmth, love, and innocence before unimaginable loss. Through it, we remember entire families erased from history's pages. At Neu-Freimann Displaced Persons Camp, a boy reveals his tattoo. The number, etched in Auschwitz, marks survival and enduring trauma. Other children stand close, watching quietly, their eyes filled with questions. Their presence reflects both shared suffering and fragile hope for the future. This moment was captured in Munich between 1945 and 1949. It shows innocence scarred, yet unbroken, amid the ruins of war. The photograph reminds us of memory, survival, and responsibility to remember. A child survivor steps ashore at Haifa port, weary but hopeful. He arrives aboard the Aliyah Bet ship Mataroa, carrying exiles. These were Jews seeking refuge, denied legal entry by British authorities. Instead of safety in Palestine, passengers faced deportation to Cyprus camps. The boy's fragile frame reflects both trauma endured and resilience within. Captured July 15, 1945, the photograph symbolizes hope repeatedly deferred. Yet, in his eyes, the dream of freedom still burns. A group of Jewish women stand together on a Paris street. Pinned to their coats are yellow badges, symbols of enforced stigma. On June 8, 1942, German authorities ordered Jews to wear them. The women's faces show quiet strength, carrying dignity despite imposed humiliation. Each badge marked them as targets in occupied Paris's daily life. This photograph freezes their courage under oppression, a testament of resilience. Even in fear, they preserved humanity against relentless persecution. This is the false identity card of Jewish partisan Vittorio Finzi. Issued under the name Vittorio Rossi, it concealed his real identity. During wartime Italy, forged documents meant survival against Nazi persecution. Finzi's card gave him mobility, protection, and a chance to resist. Partisans relied on such disguises to fight occupation and oppression. Every stamp, name, and photograph masked the truth beneath fragile paper cover. This card symbolizes courage, resistance, and survival through deception and defiance. A Jewish wedding in Morocco unfolds during the year 1942. Despite global war, tradition and love found ways to endure. The couple stands adorned in ceremonial dress, symbols of heritage. Family and friends gather, preserving customs amid uncertain times. This scene reflects the resilience of Jewish life beyond occupied Europe. Even in wartime, marriages affirmed faith, continuity, and identity. The photograph captures both celebration and the persistence of cultural strength. In Paris, 1941, a Jewish woman carries her radio away. German orders demanded Jews surrender radios to restrict outside communication. This act symbolized Nazi control over even ordinary household objects. Radios connected people to news, hope, and forbidden resistance broadcasts. Her quiet compliance reveals the impossible choices faced under occupation. Every confiscation isolated Jews further from the outside world. This photograph freezes a moment of loss, silence, and fear. At Płaszów camp, prisoners labor under the watch of a capo. The capo, once a prisoner, now enforces brutal Nazi orders. Arms folded, his stance shows authority over exhausted fellow inmates. Prisoners bend to forced labor, stripped of dignity and freedom. Capos often wielded power harshly to secure their survival. The scene captures betrayal within suffering, a hierarchy inside oppression. Every task here reflects cruelty, survival, and the system's dehumanization. At Wetzlar DP camp, leaders gather to address urgent community needs. The meeting focuses on living conditions, education, and health improvements. Chairs are arranged simply, yet the purpose carries immense weight. Every leader represents displaced survivors struggling to rebuild shattered lives. Discussions highlight resilience, cooperation, and determination after unimaginable wartime trauma. Hope grows within dialogue as plans form for better futures. This gathering symbolizes survival, leadership, and rebuilding amidst displacement's harsh reality. A school class of girls poses in Oradour before the war. Smiles, ribbons, and innocence fill this portrait of youthful promise. The photograph captures friendship, laughter, and the joy of ordinary childhood. Yet history turned cruel, erasing every child in this picture. On June 10, 1944, the SS massacred the village's people. None of these girls survived, their futures stolen in one day. This haunting image preserves their memory against brutality's silence and loss. At Haifa port, British soldiers inspect weary Jewish refugees in 1947. They arrived aboard the Aliyah Bet ship, Theodor Herzl. Hopeful passengers dreamed of rebuilding lives in their ancestral homeland. Instead, authorities labeled them illegal and denied immediate entry. Soldiers prepared to deport them to detention camps in Cyprus. The refugees carried scars of persecution, yet still held resilience. This moment reflects displacement, survival, and unyielding determination for a future home. A survivor of Bergen-Belsen stands before the camera after liberation. His body shows the scars of starvation and brutal captivity. Behind his eyes rests exhaustion, yet a faint spark of life. The camp was liberated by British forces in April 1945. What they found were thousands dead and thousands more near death. This survivor represents resilience amid unimaginable suffering and cruelty. His portrait preserves both survival and the haunting cost of genocide. A former concentration camp prisoner receives medical care in Bergen-Belsen. The mobile unit of the United Nations Relief Administration provides treatment. Doctors and nurses tend to wounds, illness, and starvation's lingering toll. For survivors, healthcare was the first step toward fragile recovery. Bergen-Belsen, once a place of horror, became a displaced persons camp. This image shows the effort to heal bodies and spirits. It reflects compassion after cruelty and humanity after devastation. A victim of the Nazi euthanasia program lies in memory. She was hospitalized in a psychiatric ward for her beliefs. Her writings and nonconformist views marked her as undesirable. The Nazi regime targeted those who defied its rigid ideology. On January 26, 1944, she was murdered without mercy. Germany's psychiatric institutions became silent killing grounds under this program. This photograph preserves her story, a reminder of lives erased. Every victim deserves remembrance, dignity, and truth against oblivion. At Dachau in 1947, justice sought voices from the camps. An American military tribunal heard testimony against Nazi perpetrators. A witness for the prosecution bravely identified a camp doctor. This doctor had denied medical care to helpless Dora Mittelbau prisoners. His actions condemned countless lives to suffering, neglect, and death. The courtroom became a space of truth against horrific silence. Every word carried the memory of pain and loss endured. The tribunal symbolized justice, accountability, and remembrance for victims. In Pinsk, between 1942 and 1944, resilience endured in forests. A wounded partisan named Sergei receives care in a field hospital. The hospital belongs to the Shish detachment of the Molotov Brigade. Dr. Ivan Kudyakov, the brigade's physician, stands at Sergei's side. Beside him is Fanya Lazebnik, also called Faye Schulman. She was both photographer and nurse, recording struggle and healing. This moment shows courage, care, and survival within partisan resistance. On April 12, 1945, American generals visited Ohrdruf concentration camp. Dwight D. Eisenhower, Omar Bradley, and George Patton walked among atrocities. They stood before a pit filled with charred human remains. Prisoners had been burned alive, their bodies left as horrifying evidence. The generals saw firsthand the brutality of Nazi crimes. Eisenhower later insisted on documenting everything to silence future deniers. This visit underscored the necessity of exposing the Holocaust's full horror. On April 12, 1945, Dwight D. Eisenhower visited Ohrdruf camp. He walked among charred corpses, evidence of unspeakable Nazi brutality. The smell of burned bodies hung heavy over the burial pit. Eisenhower was shaken, but insisted others must see the truth. He ordered soldiers, journalists, and congressmen to witness the crimes. He feared future generations might deny such horrors occurred. His resolve helped preserve undeniable proof of the Holocaust's reality. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss out on anything.